Yes, I'm ready to go. Hold on, I'm gonna do a quick blanket adjustment here.
I just went live.
All right,
Here we
I have
are.
adjusted my blanket, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Now, Exhibit A, Inhibition Z.
That was the best segue of all time.
Dude, what? How did I even do that?
No, it wasn't. It was terrible. I was sarcastic.
Shut up. Shut up, shut up, shut up.
So Inhibition C is
Inhibition Z.
let's just watch it.
Let's just watch it. All right.
You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go.
Do you know who edited this?
I'm gonna guess that it was either Anton or Sheldon. Oh gosh, Sheldon? No, Anton? Anton?
You are wrong.
Did you edit it?
No.
Who edited it?
Cramwood.
Cramwood edited this? You're kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
What? Is that in the credits?
Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. I don't know if that's confidential information.
Oh, well,
so.
you just said it on a public review, so.
Well. I respect you, Cramwood.
So I have to
I
comment
just wanted
that
to tell
this
you,
beginning
editing
was
shots.
like, it was a very underwhelming start, and then it like kicks off here, and you're like, okay, now it's more interesting.
It's like 0 to 500,000.
We get to 500,000 later.
Okay, not 500,000. It's like. But
So
regardless,
I think
it
it's
just
very
becomes-
impressive that this is an XYZ track, and is
Yes.
able to take full advantage of like GigaQuirk style things, and also sync
absolutely.
really tightly.
There's just. Ooh. I love the bit with the bass there.
Yeah.
There's a nice moment of like respite. Like this track does have decent pacing once it like figures that out.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it takes a little bit to get going, and then it really, when it takes off, it really, well, when it gets going, it really gets going, and it's continuing to get better and better as it goes.
Yeah, and this is clearly like a
Evolution
case
of
each them-
XYZ GigaQuirk, the track.
I refuse to believe those entire chains are like XYZ.
Well, we'll find out. We'll look closely when we watch in slow motion. Maybe they're not. I don't know.
I mean, they have to be if this is an Inhibition Z.
I suppose, yeah.
I'm hearing and feeling that bass in my ears.
Yeah.
I can definitely see why they picked this up. So, is this genre like swing step?
I have no idea. It's just a thing.
And there's definitely parts of the syncing here that take advantage of that, like,
Like
fluctuation.
this is the part where I'm just like, okay, now you're just showing off. Like this is just insanity. But it's really good.
This is
It
the
syncs really well.
This is the cheese.
I want to know like what the track making process for this was, because like this, it looks to me like it would take like years to make this. And so
Well,
the fact that it did,
and if something like
really
Beta 2,
curious
it
on
would.
how people make these things. Like, you know, I don't really have a way of finding out without like a tutorial. But and
I
there's
like the monument, too.
the ending where you're like, wait, is that a slag well?
Ooh, let's
Do you
watch
know
the
if
color.
like an official LRA version has been released with slag wells, or just like they just had a version?
I don't know.
I guess I haven't tried to make a slag well recently, because obviously there's slag wells in this LRA track, but I don't know
Yeah.
if it's been like in an official release. I know
They
that
might have just like.
Dap and Anton and Sheldon are usually the first to get LRA releases, long before the public does, but
Yeah. It's mostly because they're like, hey, we need this tool available to break the game as far as we possibly can.
yeah. See, it's interesting
Jealous Cloud,
because
help us out, buddy. And he's like, can do.
well, it's interesting because Jealous Cloud has talked about how he's like, you know, what he's trying to do, like, I don't know, just some things he said have made me think that what he was trying to do with LRA was make Quirk, like, to make it sort of it easier for everyone to make quirk, which he succeeded in, but the people who are really good at it have just taken it to a ridiculous level.
Oh yeah, no, this track is stone cold nutter butters.
So it's just
Man.
it's strange that it's like, I'm gonna make it easy to do quirk, and it's like now it's easier for these insane people to make ridiculous quirk. You know?
It's kind of just incredible to watch this. It's like, when I first started playing, I thought that Choo Choo by how do you pronounce his name? E-Chair.
Whatever.
I thought that was the pinnacle of Line Rider. That was the best
track
ever. Like on an objective level, it's like he never stops moving, because that was my qualification for like what a good track was, and for like what a good quirk was, because he was constantly in motion. He was constantly doing something speedy. But I think this does something a little better, and that is, it's the control of the movement that they want us to look at.
I think we can say that, like, there's, Choo Choo can't really hold a candle to Inhibitions Z. That's for sure. No. I'm not even sure why we're making this comparison.
I'm not making the comparison. I'm meditating on how my attitude, and I think the attitude of a lot of the communities, on like how we define what flow is, and there was that whole giant conversation that everyone had. Our definitions have changed so much since that, like, 2008, like, if you flat sledge, you're bad mentality.
Yeah.
Where ZNF would put flat sledding in King, and everyone was like, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like there are these moments of starting and stopping that are kind of just beyond that, and kind of give the middle finger to the idea that you need consistent motion to have an entertaining track.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure how this is relevant to this track, because people have been doing that for years. I'm trying to think of a good example, but like it's been a thing.
Well, I feel like this is the extreme of starting and stopping, like the motion from complete stop.
Yeah, in a way, this is like the best stop and go ever created. You could say that.
Because the stops
I guess Leomer would probably roll over in his grave if he heard me saying that. He's not dead. He's not rolling over in his grave. He would have a fit. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he's Leomer, so he'd probably just laugh. But
yeah.
You want to watch it in slow-mo now?
Absolutely.
It's 25 seconds.
Where do we start at? What?
25 seconds?
What part? When did our intros get to be like 25 seconds?
That's, I guess, like 2010?
Yeah. All right.
Ready?
I'm at 25 seconds, yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right.
Wow. So yeah, Dap has said that it started out as like a little doodle.
I feel like a lot of Dap's tracks started as doodles.
That's true. I think a lot of them did. I'm trying to think of one that didn't, actually. I mean,
or it's just like here's a little dirtly idea I did.
I'm gonna do an all stack track. Inhibition Z started with I'm gonna do an insane XY track. Other than that, I don't really know. I mean, I guess not. Because those are like.
I think he also does a good job of setting up this like opening, because at first you're like, is this really what the intro was hyping this up to be? Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
And then you're like, don't give me that. It's like interesting dirtily stuff, but we were expecting some insanity from you, especially after seeing the first Inhibitions.
Because it's like, it sets it. Okay, so on the one hand, it's clearly not planned. On the other hand, it does set up a nice tension that then this just like takes off with, you know.
It's just like, okay, here we go.
All right, here we go. But then, I always prefer to have it like, you know, plan so that you can plan that. Like, instead of like retroactively making it into that, it's always more fun, in my opinion, if you like, I don't know. But then, I don't know, everyone seems to have a hard time with planning, so...
Yeah, sometimes people just make a track because they're bored, and then they get the idea, and it takes off.
Yeah, and that's happened to me too. So
that happens. That happens to me all the time.
That's how most people make tracks, to be honest.
Especially like in really early stages of stuff, like Jabberwocky, Idiom, that phase.
Well, it happens to everyone, and it has happened to everyone. That's like the way most people have made tracks, since the beginning.
But then the sense of planning comes in, definitely.
Yeah. Because there aren't really a lot of tracks that plan something right from the beginning. I guess if you don't count, like, planning, like, I'm going to make an epic quirk from,
like, even Supersonic Motion was like,
it's like, I'm going to do maybe an all-gravity track, and then it was like, actually, I'm going to do this, And
it still ended up being pretty good. I think Jam was actually planned from the start.
Oh, Jam was. There's a few. Blue Champion was the first, I know that. That was, like, really planned, like, right from the get-go. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Jam was the first completed one. Well, that I can think of. Anyway, we're off topic. Oh, gosh. Are those XYZ?
Yeah, this is all XYZ.
They are XYZ. It really doesn't look like... I guess that's what happens when you can get super, super small lines.
Yeah.
It basically looks like a freaking chain, except it's XYZ.
Oh, it's so weird.
It's so weird. It almost becomes like a technicality that it's XYZ. It's not even... It doesn't change how the track looks, I'm sure it limits what you can do, but... It's kind of hard to know what the limitations are on it when you're watching this. You're like, it just looks like you could do anything with XYZ.
Yeah. I think he also uses a lot of the chains in a way that give like an illusion of circularness by basically saying he's going to move in a direction here, and then it's going to catch him at a point. It's going to start dragging him in this direction.
Yeah.
And it's going to catch him as he's moving. So he's using the sort of momentum to create circular motion with something that isn't.
Yeah. I assume. I can only assume that that's what's going on, because I really have no idea what's going on. From what I can tell, that this is
Aspie would be like, right now at this part, because he was all about the hands behind head chains. He's like, I made a loop of that.
Something that I can say is that this is clearly like the first Inhibitions had some cool bits, but a lot of weaknesses, and this one has a lot more strengths than weaknesses.
Yes.
So I would say that this is definitely just better put together than the first Inhibitions.
I think it's an improvement on Inhibitions, and I think it shows that Dap is pretty good at taking advice from tracks. I think one of the biggest criticisms of Inhibitions was just that a lot of it felt slipshod and just kind of put together, but that he clearly had the skill to be able to do something if he put it together. And
I don't know how much of that is Dap and how much of that is Anton and how much of that is Sheldon.
I feel like that could also just be that they've... I think people work together better collaboratively than they do on their own, especially for planning, because with collaborations you have to be like, okay, what are we going to do here, 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 and here?
Yeah, well, if everyone's super excited about the collaboration, then it's definitely that's true.
And
everyone was excited about this one, clearly.
Oh man, well, it's because
those are all XYZ. Look at that.
Yep.
I don't understand.
For them, it's.
I only know of one other XYZ track, and it was Bad Juju by Redcap, and it was not nearly as exciting as this one. So
I think
I would
another
say
thing
best
here.
XYZ track ever, except that's a very small category of track, so I don't
Yes.
know, man.
One thing I think that's important to note with Inhibitions Z and a lot of Gigaquark tracks is that the experience we're getting right here may not necessarily be of primary importance. Uh, I mean, okay, so the experience of like watching the full track and being like, check this shit out, guys, is certainly a huge factor in why this was made.
Yeah.
But also a huge part of this is discovering the crazy Quirk engine-y bits of
Yeah.
Line Rider. And it's a very video gamey aspect.
Yeah.
And
It's just a different way that people play the game than what we typically do nowadays, anyway.
It's one that is a certain level of like interactivity of the person with the game.
Yeah.
And occasionally that's hard to relate to because we don't get to see that and we don't get to experience that the way they do.
Yeah.
But one thing I think I'm getting from this, and this is totally my subjective bullshit interpretation here, is that each like new thing that they're doing here, I imagine that Dap and Anton and Sheldon felt a certain level of joy at being like, this is a new thing that I am doing. This is a crazy cool thing that I get to do.
Yeah.
And part of me feels like that's something that unless you are doing the exact kind of thing that they're doing, is going to be extremely, extremely hard to relate to that.
I'm sensing what you're getting at.
I'm not really. I don't think I'm getting at anything. I'm just.
Oh no.
I just think it's an interesting thing to consider.
Yeah, clearly a major part of this track and other tracks like this is let's see what we can do next, you know? And it's not so much look at what we can do, but as much as it is like just doing it and figuring out what you can do, you know? And it's not necessarily like trying
Jesus,
to get...
what was that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, there.
I don't know what's going on the screen.
He's going everywhere. That's amazing.
Like,
okay.
Like, cause yeah, it's pretty clear that, like, you know, I'm never gonna really understand what's going on here, and you know, and they must have been well aware of that while making this, and so you know, it's clear that it's more about discovering things for themselves than it is about discovering things that they can then show to people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
go on.
Yeah, so it's just about having fun playing the game, as opposed to creating something for people to watch, you know.
Yep, I think that's what it is.
It's very, very different from any way that I've ever played the game, which is probably why I've gotten into such heated arguments about this sort of thing, and it's the main reason why I just didn't have anything to say about this track when it came out,
it's because from an artistic perspective, it's not anything to write home about, but from like that video gamey discovering something, It's like when you have
that guy. What's his name? Pan and Koek or something on YouTube, and he's figures out how to play Mario 64 without
the A
pressing
presses?
pressing the A button the least amount of times. And there's one where he uses TAS and he goes into
parallel universes.
It's like something like falling. Yeah, he discovers that based on the programming of the physics, there are these parallel universes that he can warp to if he builds up enough speed, and so then he can traverse up slopes and then get to like a really high spot and then like warp across the world and then and basically like it's ridiculous the things he does to avoid pressing the A button like to as much as he can, and it's like, you know, I'm never gonna really understand what he's doing, but it's fun to watch. But I think something interesting about that is that it's more fun to watch him describe what he was doing. In a way that you can understand. Like, he like goes through the whole thing. Like, I'm thinking of one recent video that actually was the first video that he actually did like live, or not live commentary, but he did commentary with his voice, and he like explained things, and he had like diagrams, and it like, you watch it and you're like, this is so crazy, but I kind of understand it, you know? And so maybe like that would be a really cool thing for GigaQuirkers to look into, is like making some sort of like Chuggers is sort of doing that with his developer commentaries. But he mostly, like, from what I've heard in his developer commentaries, mostly, which I think I like watched them all on like 0.1 or I listened to them all on like 1.5 times speed. I don't think I actually watched them. But for what I got from those, it's mostly talking about like why he made the choices he made in the track, or like what parts he likes and why, and stuff like that. And you know, that's fine, but I would really like to like know about the process of making these things. So like, what did you actually have to do to make this, and what were you taking into account, and what were you thinking about? And I guess it's not really easy to make those videos, but they're really fun to. I think they would be really fun to watch. So
yeah, and I think it's a side of Line Rider that isn't like articulated as being such, but it's essentially playing it as a video game.
Yeah,
and like, that's and what I like about Line Rider is that you can do Line Rider stuff as art, and that has value, and you can do it as a video game, and if you get enjoyment out of that, and you like that discovering new stuff, that has value too.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I mean, what I'm trying to get at is that like I think right now it's like sometimes in the worst example, like in the most frustrating instances, someone posts a track, and then someone comments like, it's probably crazy, I guess, but it didn't do anything for me. And then someone else is like, how dare you, you know, you obviously don't understand. And it's like, well, yeah, you don't understand, but what if you could, like, you know, bust out the diagrams and like the voiceovers and like, you know, convey it, and that would be really cool. That's what I thought.
I think
I
think we should
have
have
this idea just now, but you know, maybe that would help.
We should have more explanations of things that are like technical as ways of being like, oh, this is how and the why, and like more process
and then
videos.
It would be
I
easier for people to be impressed who didn't actually make the work on them themselves. You know, it would be easier for people to go, oh, I see why this is so hard, and I see, you know, all the work that went into this, and I see, you know, I understand, and what was difficult and what was not as difficult, you know, and what the process was like.
Right, because there's a meta narrative behind all of these tracks that nobody except for the people
knows
who made
what's going on.
Except for the people who made the track.
Except for the people who made the track, or people who are like make, you know,
I think this track and tracks like it, Superluminal Motion in particular, if you're watching Chuggers, a wink, would really benefit from having maybe in addition to like the developer commentary, talk about like what techniques you use at certain points.
And not even talk about, but like talk about and then demonstrate and like, you know, make a little like make a little diagram or make a little like a short video where you show like you are like drawing lines and being like, here's what happens when you do this, and then I can get this to work by doing this.
I've never been this excited about Gigacorp before, but you know what? I'm all for it. Fuck yeah, let's do this. Also, that butt chain right there is ridiculous.
There's like those all the time, but I don't know how they're made. Like, I'm just like, okay, it's pulling his butt really far, but if I try to make a line there, it just doesn't work. It's like it just dies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do they do it? You know, I don't know.
How much of this is guesswork, and like how much of this is like knowing?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, this track seems to demonstrate that there's a lot more knowing than I thought. It's not just like endless grinding. It's like they must know their stuff in order to make this kind of a insane track in that amount of time.
Absolutely.
You know? Anyway, I want to know more. And this review is now 25 minutes long, so maybe we should call it a day.
I think we turned this review into like a accidental soapbox / case for Gigacorp, which is not the direction I expected this review to go. But you know what?
I don't know if it. I'm just really excited about this. I hope people watch this and like take us up.
I'm pretty sure Dap watches these. So Dap,
yeah,
boy,
if you're watching.
If you don't already hate me for accidentally outing Crimewood as the editor of this...
He probably just stopped it right there. He's like, watching that
apologize.
review now.
I apologize. I love you, baby. And... I think instead of saying I want to see more... At the end of this, I want to know more.
Yeah, like I
think this track deserves more of an explanation than we've been given.
And
I don't know how
there's some real solid entertainment value to be mined from how this kind of thing is made. Beyond just here's the track, because you watch the track and you're like, I guess that was cool, but I have no idea what's going on.
Kind of like when you watch explanations for certain parts.
Kind of like when you watch like
oh shit.
When you watch like a tool assisted speed run of a game, and you're like,
yeah,
okay, that was kind of cool, but I have no idea what's going on. You know, I mean, you just like you warp through a wall, and I don't know how. But then, then you read the commentary, and you're like, oh, that's how they did it, or you know, anyway.
So. Here's another more concrete example as well. So I got into Smash Brothers about a couple months ago, starting at the summer. Before that, I had seen that really famous, Happy Feet, Wombo Combo. That ain't Falco. Oh, right, that video.
Yeah.
And
Wombo Combo.
I saw it was happening, but I didn't know why any of the things were making them shout, get your ass whooped in really loud voices. And I started playing and watching Smash 4, and I started watching Melee, and then I started like watching those documentaries on the early days of Melee, and then I realized, and when they talked about that sort of Wombo Combo thing, and they didn't talk about this in the documentary, but this was like an early iteration of a doubles team that had never like done this in recorded Melee history.
Yeah.
And so this was one of the first times it happened, and when they set it up, that's when you hear the and just the shouting announcers freaking out over it. And it's a combo in a doubles match where they're taking this guy's last stock with a team combo where there's nobody around.
Yeah.
And they get the setup, and then that's when I sort of understood, that's why they're shouting.
Yeah.
That's why that's ridiculous. And I think a lot of people would benefit from seeing, okay, that's why it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because most people will just look at the video and be like, okay, it's Bosch flailing around.
And then there's going to be a lot of people who just look at the video and are like, okay, but then like, if people want to know more, and we definitely want to know more, then
please,
it would be nice.
Please, BB.
So,
right.
On that note, I think this review has gone on long enough. So, thanks for watching for anyone who has watched it, and we'll see you at the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.